For decades, the US dollar was untouchable. It powered global trade, dominated international markets, and became the currency the entire world trusted. But today, that trust is being tested. The dollar is weakening. Countries are looking for alternatives. Investors are asking questions. And for the first time in years, people are wondering, is the world's most powerful currency starting to lose its grip? Welcome to Capital Theory. Today, we're breaking down why the US dollar is falling and why it matters more than you think. The dollar's superpower. To understand what's happening, we need to understand why the dollar became so powerful. After World War II, the United States emerged as the strongest economy on Earth. Its industries were booming. Its banks financed global trade. And over time, the US dollar became the world's reserve currency. That meant countries held dollars, businesses traded in dollars, and even commodities like oil were bought and sold in dollars. This gave America an incredible advantage. As long as the world trusted the dollar, demand remained high. But that trust isn't automatic. It has to be maintained. And that's where the problems begin. The debt mountain. One of the biggest concerns is America's growing debt. Every year, the US government spends enormous amounts of money, often more than it collects in taxes. To cover the gap, it borrows. And over time, that borrowing adds up. Now imagine lending money to someone who keeps borrowing more and more every year. Eventually, you'd start asking questions. Can they keep this up? Will they be able to pay it back? That's exactly what some investors are starting to ask about the United States. The larger the debt becomes, the more pressure it can place on confidence in the dollar. And confidence is everything. The inflation problem. Then there's inflation. When inflation rises, your money buys less. Groceries cost more, rent costs more, fuel costs more. And suddenly, the same amount of money doesn't go nearly as far as it used to. For ordinary people, inflation feels like an invisible tax. But for a currency, it can be even more damaging. Because if people believe a currency is losing value too quickly, they start looking for safer alternatives. And that's exactly what some investors have been doing. The world is changing for decades. Most countries relied heavily on the US dollar, but the world is changing. Some nations are increasing trade using their own currencies. Others are reducing their dependence on the dollar. This doesn't mean the dollar is about to disappear. Not even close. The dollar is still the most important currency in the world, but it does mean something important. For the first time in a long time, its dominance is no longer being taken for granted, and that's a major shift. The big twist. Here's the interesting part. Despite all these challenges, there still isn't a clear replacement for the dollar. The United States remains home to some of the world's biggest companies. Its financial markets attract global investors. And technologies like artificial intelligence continue drawing massive amounts of money into the American economy. So while the dollar is facing pressure, it still has strengths that few other currencies can match. That's why experts aren't talking about an immediate collapse. They're talking about a gradual change, a slow shift rather than a sudden fall. That's the ending. So why is the dollar falling? Because of growing debt, because of inflation, and because the world is slowly becoming less dependent on it than before. But that doesn't mean the dollar is dead. Far from it. The real question isn't whether the dollar will disappear. The real question is whether America can maintain the trust that made the dollar powerful in the first place. Because throughout history, powerful systems rarely collapse overnight. They weaken slowly, one crack at a time, one doubt at a time, one question at a time. And right now, more people than ever are asking questions about the future of the dollar. If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe to Capital Theory for more stories about money, business, and the forces shaping the global economy. And I'll see you in the next one.